Before I actually get into this week's episode, I wanted to point something out. So a couple days ago I made a video, 5 art styles worse than Angela and Anaconda, where I directly respond to Phantom Strider's criticisms of the show. And he actually saw the video and left a really, really nice comment on it. It was not intended to be a mean-spirited response. Look what he says, it's really sweet. You have a kindly, humble presentation that I really respect, AmazzonKane. While I have a personal distaste for Angela's art style growing up, you are indeed correct, I could have explained my reasons better. I think you make some excellent points in this, and I really agree about the inherent value in animation like Angela that's unique and takes its own big risks. That's partially why I intended to shy away from worse lists nowadays. They don't like to potentially hurt smaller animation companies, because most animation is expensive, doesn't always pay off, and takes huge heart and commitment. Love your channel, AmazzonKane. Keep up the amazing work. It's really, really nice. I don't know if you're watching this, but thank you, Strider. And to anyone else watching, Channel Awesome has seen my other video responding to them. They liked it. Haven't heard any response other than that. And Mr. Enter, I haven't heard a thing from him, so I don't know if he's seen it. But it's really, really nice to know, hey, we're willing to hear each other's points of view. I appreciate that. So, thank you for that. Anyways, this week what I wanted to do, since it's the week of Valentine's Day, I wanted to look at Angela and Nanette's relationship more closely. I'm going to be doing a couple of episodes this week and talking a little bit more in depth about it. Since I think there is a lot to unpack, as it's the main relationship of the show, while there's not a ton written for it, there is a ton to interpret from it. So that's what I'm going to do. Here's the first episode that focuses on that, Stuck on You.
It is another day and another recess. But this another recess is not just any another recess, because today I am going for my own personal best bubble gum.
It's a very small seesaw.
But Angela, the simple act of chewing gum contains many often ignored dangers, not the least of which is swallowing.
I love Gordy. He seems to be the voice of reason.
1, 2, I jump better than you. 3, 4, it's me, you adore. Careful!
Nanette's her own cheerleader.
That's my great big baton twirling recital tonight. Good for you! Bravo! Go, go, go!
Intaking such a humongous wad of gum could permanently stretch out your cheeks.
Sorry, Reinhardt, but breaking bubble records is not for the faint of heart. Or the cheeks. Besides, Angela has much more important things to worry about. Like how many cavities all this gum will give her. Tiny dotty cake?
The cupcakes in the show do look delicious.
Journey of body. Start the countdown.
And I appreciate the creativity of this setup.
2, 1, blow. Huff, 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 huff. Don't tell me Angela Anaconda's at it again. Chewing gum is so tacky.
Heh.
My precious beret! Well, don't just stand there. Go get it!
That's what minions are for.
Slow down, Angela. You're blowing too fast.
Gordy, I appreciate Gordy's safety instructions.
I've been inhalerized.
Uh-oh. Oh no! Oh, cupcake. I thought Angela set was sent flying for a second there. I appreciate the slapstick.
Angela,
Oh no.
off of me before you muss my baton twirling hairdo. I would if you would let go of my hand.
And they're stuck together.
Holding your
I have
hand.
seen this plot done in other episodes, but it's always funny.
Holy smokes, they're stuck.
Eh.
Oh no! Did I mention the danger of getting gum in your hair?
Tug of war?
Angela got gum in my hair. I did not. She got hair in my gum.
Somebody do something!
Nobody panic!
The cupcake is still on Miss Brinks' butt.
And snip this problem in the bud!
Scissors? Pardonnez-moi, Mrs. Brinks, but there's no way I'm letting any of you come anywhere near my perfectly coiffed curls. But what are we gonna do? What else? Call Pierre, my hair surgeon. Hair surgeon? Oh, well-groomed, well-to-do people have them, which explains why you don't, Angela Anaconda.
Well, dear, I'm not a professional, but my husband, Connie Brink.
Forget it!
Oh my god.
To make an appointment with Pierre.
This was Nanette's idea.
Then you'll just have to cancel the mayor's back waxing. Tell him
Annette Manoir! Oh, actually, Pierre is out
She's trying to get away from her.
When I say
Also appreciate the use of shadows here.
Yes, that's what I meant. He's out of the country. In Africa, on a safari.
What? Out of the country? But my baton recital is tonight at 7. Tell him it's Nanette. Tell him he has to come home.
Angela's face reacting to Nanette's hilarious.
Don't tell me that I am stuck spending the day stuck together with you. No, Angela. I have to spend the day stuck together
Oh
with you.
boy.
Perhaps you two should move past denial to acceptance. After all, how bad can one day be?
They hate each other.
Mrs. Briggs, Angela and Anaconda is trying to look at my paper.
Miss Anaconda, since
Oh.
you can't control yourself, I have plenty of erasers that need clapping.
But I
They do use that joke a lot. Oh well.
Mrs. Briggs, I'm sure that Angela has learned her lesson from the harsh.
Angela's gonna blackmail this time around. You can just pull on her head.
Give this scoundrel a second chance. But she must be punished.
Keep your eyes on your own paper. And I don't know why you can't keep your kisser off Briggs' butt.
Oh! Zing!
Watch what you're doing. You watch what you are doing.
Well, you don't usually see them in other classes. That's interesting.
Time to climb the rope.
I feel like that would put them at an advantage.
Form Angela Anaconda.
For the citizens of this tiny nation, two of the chief sources of protein are inchworms and grubs.
Oh my god, wow, that... Whoa.
Whoa. Thank you, Mrs. Briggs. She was
Whoa. Oh, how does that work? But are you really arch enemies with someone if you've never shared a toilet?
My life is finally over, and I would be looking forward to a
Wait,
relaxing afternoon, except for that
did Derek just come out of the school?
Manoir. My baton route, which is out. French for baton practice is this way. But I promised my mom I'd take my dog to the U-Babe doggy wash after school. Ow! And that's this way. Don't you have servants for that sort of thing? It's ow! An important responsibility. Oh, really? Well, I have a responsibility. Ow! To the baton twirling fans of Tapwater Spring. Ow! I am sure all 3 of them. Ow! Well,
Angela's got some good comebacks in this episode.
now, baton practice first. Then we can do your bourgeois dog activity later. Ow! King doesn't need a bourgeois. She needs a bath. Ow!
Aw.
Okay, girls. Baton, poise, and step, step, twirl.
Aw.
Step, step, twirl. Step, step, twirl. Puke, puke, twirl. Twirl, Angela. Twirl like the wind. Ow!
A lot of slapstick in this one.
Time yet? Come on, it'll be fun. We'll get all wet and soapy. Yes, well, couldn't you do this tour another day?
Don't read too much into that.
To me, I sat through your stupid baton practice. Now it's your turn to do something I want to do. Besides, I promise.
Sounds like siblings a little bit.
Oh, stop! Make it stop! Hello? This is Nanette Manoir again. Well, put Her Majesty on hold. This is critical. I must What?
It is interesting that you can actually see different face proportions used on both of them.
Could he do this to me?
I actually saw that image out of context and thought it was someone's DeviantArt fan art.
Forever.
Okay.
And the years will go by. Years and years of them.
And it's kind of funny. I love the ridiculousness of this fantasy sequence, but it's kind of funny that they assume it's automatic.
And when you finally
Hello?
decide to marry Johnny Abadi,
Oh.
which I know you will, Nanette Manoir, then I'll have to marry him too. I do.
What?
I do.
Definitely did not look like he was part of that equation.
Do. Close enough. And then Josephine Praline will declare us husband and wife and wife.
So, polyamory? Pause. I call serious bullshit that Johnny Abadi's even part of this equation. I mean, he's behind them. He's not even next to them. So he's not meant to be the focus of this.
Finally, after years,
But if there's...
years of being stuck
Yeah,
together,
Johnny's not really part of the equation. I like that the ridiculousness is the assumption that they'd be married to each other. growing old together.
Although, if it wasn't so unhealthy, it would actually be kind of beautiful.
Okay, if they're old,
If they're old in the revenge fantasy, why is Peter still young?
Hours of emergency surgery. The operation is a success.
that's hilarious.
Tray magnet meat, he will tell us.
Whoa. Trippy.
That does it, Nanette Manoir. I can't take any more of this on account of I have taken all I can take. If you don't find someone to cut our hair, I will. Okay.
This wasn't Annette's idea.
So rude and demanding.
I also don't know if this is really weird or gross to point out or anything, but they're not exactly wasting time getting out of that bathtub, and when they slip and fall in, Angela appeared to enjoy it.
He's still trying to get away from her.
The wrong number.
Pierre, I demand an explanation.
What can I say? Hair surgery pays the bills, but doggy grooming is my passion.
Aww.
You mean your Pierre is my Pete, the you babe doggy dog wash guy? Wait till I tell Johnny and Nina that you let a dog groomer cut your precious locks. Angela Anaconda.
Dog imagery.
See through. This is all your fault, Pierre. When my father hears about this.
I love how Angela's not the only one
I'll cut your hair.
who hates Nanette.
You promise never to call my salon again.
That's funny.
No, doggy groomer.
She's gonna leave a bad review on Yelp.
Free at last. You can say that again. This
Miraculously
is the
dry
most
continuity.
horrible day of my life. As soon as
But
my
Nanette also seems to target Angela specifically.
Something I deserve. Why wait till tonight? Pete has just the thing. Sit, girl.
Sit, bitch! And now part 2 of this double feature, Return to Sender.
Today is a great day. Today is a great day. Hey!
Letter writing.
This is a great day on account of I crossed all my fingers and wished that my very first letter.
I'm actually a letter writer too, so I automatically like this
From the
episode.
Worldwide Pen Pal Association. It all started 4 endless weeks that seemed like at least a month ago when me and my friends went on a trip around the world at the new Children
Subtle,
of the World exhibit at the
subtle
museum.
repetitive nature.
We saw how Eskimo children live on the frozen tundra.
And Eskimo is actually not a politically correct word anymore. The correct word is Inuit, as the word Eskimo loosely translates in the language as meat eater.
Cool.
Do you realize that someone had to blow that
I
thing
don't
up?
know if this was before that terminology came about,
Candy in Central America land.
so, but I had to point it out. Jalapeno cotton candy.
Delicious.
I
Then we went to the interactive Fiesta Siesta Dome in Spainland. Hey.
But I always get sick on museum rides.
cool.
Tell me when it's over.
Cordy.
But of all the cool things, the coolest of all was the Worldwide Pen Pal Association, where we decided to sign up for some worldwide pen pals. In honor of the world's best nappers, a lost art that has been lost, I will use my special
Definitely felt like an adult who didn't like TV who wrote that line.
Angelita. Finally, a chance to read my letter.
Chocolate! This could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
My pen pal's a Russian ballerina.
Does anyone know how to read Australian?
This is an exceptional letter.
Well, what does it say?
Well, I haven't actually read it yet.
My pen pal wrote 4 whole pages.
Typed without even double spacing or talking about anything boring like the weather or homework. How'd she do that?
Perhaps it's cultural. Where's she from?
Everywhere. Her mom works for the United Nations, so they've lived all over the world in lots of different places. I must have the best pen pal in the whole
Cool.
world.
Excusez-moi, Angela Anaconda, but perhaps if the whole world means the less desirable lunch table, then maybe your pen pal is the best. But if it means all
I love how Nanette's gotta specifically show her up when there's absolutely no stakes.
Best pen pal in the whole universe.
If I was your father, I would fly you away as frequently as I could too, Nanette Manoir. He doesn't have a better pen pal than me, and I will prove it.
Angela, Nanette walked away 30 seconds ago.
I knew that.
But she still doesn't know I hate her.
Another letter from my very best pen pal.
Not me personally,
2
but
in 1
you know what I
week.
mean.
That must be some kind of worldwide pen pal association record.
If it is, then you didn't hold the record very long, Angela, because I got 3. Oh.
Again, there is no stakes here,
Letter that is 10 pages
but they're
long.
competing.
Here's your double gram skinny sweet smoothie with an energy packet and a shot of wheatgrass.
God, I wish I had minions like that.
I received from my pen pal. Huh? Now,
They're
run
so
along,
useful.
Angela Anaconda. I think your government-subsidized mystery meat is waiting.
Well, at least it's food and not grass, where the only mystery is why anyone but any goat would want to eat it. Huh? Ew.
Bye
And
bye,
that's the key to
cafeteria
good
pie.
Knockwurst is. Next time, send you I will a recipe for my homemade strudel.
Aw.
Your pen pal, Inga. Luckily, Inga's cooking is better than her
Dang.
grasp of English sentence structure. I'm selling candies to raise money for a new
Pen pals are so much more responsive in this world. Because when I used to write to people,
Something nice.
a lot of the times people wouldn't write back, or it would take a longer time.
Reading. Seeing as I just read the greatest thing ever on account of it will be the worst thing ever for one Nanette manure. Ow! Guess I'm not dreaming. Can I pinch you again? No.
Johnny!
Pardonnez moi, Angela Anaconda, but isn't this a coincidence? My pen pal's father is an inventor much like yours, only her father is a successful one. I thought his story might give your father something to aspire to. I just know how important hope can be for people such as yourself.
I have a coincidence too, Nanette. My pen pal speaks French, just like you. Only she speaks real French on account of...
Okay, I know the twist that they're writing to each other.
...who was born in France and lives there too. I thought that might give you something to aspire to. I know how important
I'll give my thoughts in a few
people born
minutes.
here and not in France.
Also, Johnny's reactions are funny.
It's like my pen pal and me are soulmates or something. She
Gonna
has
point
an
that
enemy
out,
girl
too.
in her class who is her mortal enemy too.
Aww! So cute, actually.
Your pen pal isn't from France. I thought you might like to look at my authentic French letter covered with authentic French.
She's seen it earlier.
But that's mine!
No way in hell they didn't know they were writing to each other. Because international stamps cost a little bit more than domestic stamps, and they had to actually put the addresses on the letter. No way they didn't know.
Embarrassing! Embarrassing? Hardly. I knew she was my pen pal all along. Her total humiliation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of convinced.
No?
They enjoyed writing to each other. Come on.
No? I can.
And now I will read my latest letter from my truly French pal.
Aww. This is gonna hurt.
Dear Angelita, you are officially the worst pen pal ever. I had your letters sprayed for ice before I touched them. And I spray them with perfume to cover up your awful stink. Here's my list of all the things that make you bad.
Oh, having been on the receiving end of that too. Oh god, that hurts.
Magicians with layered pastries. Little Luluchevsky dedicated her performance in Swan Lake to me.
Gordy! Gordy deserves to be happy.
Cool.
Like this is really gonna come back.
Cool.
Also the travel time.
Angela, I'm sure
Between
we're all
these
dying to hear
letters.
about the latest letter from the greatest pen pal in the world.
It would take a lot longer than
My
implied in the
pen pal
episode.
didn't exactly write today on account of she got writer's cramp from writing all my other good, wonderful letters that were good and wonderful and good.
I wish I had a pen pal like Angela Anaconda's. I wish it even more. But I'm Angela's pen pal, remember?
You're Marie Antoinette?
Catfish.
When did your mother work for the United Nations?
It's called poetic license, Angela Anaconda, which is French for I had to make my letters interesting to make up for your boring drivel.
Uh-huh.
But one thing, Angelita, you did have the best pen pal in the world. Too bad you didn't deserve it.
And I know just what you deserve, Nanette. Man, what?
They were really nice before, so... Oh, hello, Vengeance.
Pooh.
It's
Your most trusted pen pal, dear Nanette.
Old
You are
school.
a big, un-French fibbing phony. Love, your pen pal. XXXX. Oh.
Oh, hello. Sent with a kiss.
Stop squirming.
Although I'm sure it's sarcastic in this case.
Even lying letters that no one wants to read anyway must be sealed properly.
Also, I'm loving the the glasses, robe, and khakis. north.
Looks like that.
Oh, this,
Ned
whoa,
are
that's trippy imagery right there.
Frozen tundra, and the poor Eskimo babies are all
Inuit.
out of caribou intestines. Lucky for them.
Blowing up her intestines.
Ninny boo.
That is very creative with its violence. Yay! Oh, I wanted to see the blade spin more.
Never was or ever will be.
Oh, wait a minute. This is implied cannibalism.
Mini pen pal Boo. But Angelita is taking a much-needed siesta. Do not fear me, amiga. I know someone who can deliver you to safety. And that is no bull.
Whoa, that is no bull indeed.
Ninny.
Dang it, Gina didn't eat the hair. No
Your
cannibalism.
final destination. Guess we'll just have to
By the way, people coming in without context, other people have made fun of the cannibalism jokes in the show. I think they're funny.
Did Angela really think she had that certain je ne sais what necessary to engage someone as worldly as Marie Antoinette?
Yes, because you wrote her 12 pages before that.
Those first seemingly kind letters. I was merely humoring. Wait a minute. Now that you mention it, those first seemingly kind letters were not so kind to certain people. And now that I mention it, I happen to still have those letters.
With
So I
stickers
think
that
we can
she wouldn't let anyone else touch, so this was clearly special.
Other than an annoying little freckle-faced girl who I can... Oh, skip that.
Oh, she complains about her just as much as Angela complains about Nanette. It's kind of beautiful.
My very un-French, uncouth teacher who luckily I am able to play like a viola, which is French for violin.
Not at all.
But, Mrs. Brinks, I couldn't expect someone like Angela Anaconda to understand a relationship as sophisticated and worldly as ours. Could I?
Well, Nanette, I'm not sure someone as uncouth as I am understands it either. Why don't you explain it to me while you wash the blackboard after school?
Wow.
Well, Nanette was right about one thing.
Man, Miss Brinks needs so much validation from her students.
Maybe I ought to write her a thank you note.
That one was interesting. I'm going to talk about these two episodes in particular before going into a more general analysis. But I would like to point out that the fantasy sequence in Stuck on You has the most explicitly queer moments of anything in this entire series. And this was made before the acceptance of gay people, before more representation of gay people in the media, and before, honestly, before the legalization of same-sex marriage. So the fact that they were able to get away with some of this imagery, even played for comedy, is actually very impressive. And the episode itself I find interesting because I've seen the whole enemies forced to be stuck together plot done before. I've seen it in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and I've seen it done in Kim Possible, but they had more of a magical force behind it. So I believe that those two characters were magically bonded together by a stronger force. Here, it's slice of life and they have gum in their hair. So they could have been freed at any moment, but Nanette's being stubborn about it. So part of it came off to me as, oh, did you just want to spend the day with your archenemy? Was it really worth having to share a toilet? I don't know. I mean, and Angela's dad's an inventor, so they could have had something like that be the cause. But I did like the setup. It had good slapstick. Return to Sender had some really interesting things going on. Because, one, the plot sounds like something you'd see in a rom-com. Two people who hate each other write letters to each other. They don't know each other, pen pals. Could there be romance afoot? I mean, it actually sounds like something you'd see in a rom-com. The plot. Angela and Nanette writing to each other and one-upping each other when there's really no stakes is actually very funny. And the interesting thing is, they do have very kind things to say to each other and really go above and beyond. Not to mention, Nanette says that she uses stickers on it that she won't even let January and Carlene touch. So this implies that she thinks her pen pal is special and more worthy than January Carlene. And she complains about Angela in her letter, so clearly they think about each other a lot. And I find it interesting, especially towards the end, when she realizes that she and Angela were writing to each other. Again, I seriously doubt they didn't know, because you have to write the person's name and address on the actual envelope. And domestic stamps and international stamps are very different, cost differently. So how they didn't know they were writing to someone in town is confusing to me. And when Nanette actually figures it out first, she gets very embarrassed and distances herself and really hypercompensates to make sure Angela knows, oh, I don't like you, even though Angela doesn't know squat. She could have just lied to January Carlene. So to me, there is a possibility to interpret that as, oh, someone, it could have been, it's not really a whole popular kid, unpopular kid thing. It definitely comes across to me more as, oh, someone's writing to a best friend or a crush and realizing who it is, it has to overcompensate for it. Because again, it's actually one of the nastiest things that she does to her in this show, and having been through something like that, it hit me pretty hard. Now, on to the more general analysis. Well, for starters, I'd like to point out that Angela and Nanette's rivalry is passionate as well as mutual. We get Angela's point of view all the time because it's her show, but there are a couple indicators that suggest that Nanette feels the same way. For starters, Nanette's not your typical school bully character. She's not someone like Regina George who targets everybody, or someone like Heather Chandler who's equally abusive to all her friends. Nanette targets Angela specifically, even if she's unpleasant to everyone around her. And I really don't like the trope of, oh, just because someone hates you and bullies you, it means they secretly like you. There's a couple of reasons why I think, one, it's lazy writing, and it also glorifies abusive relationships, and especially for LGBT or plausible LGBT relationships, I really do not want to go there because there is a lot less representation, and in addition, LGBT people are far more likely to be taken advantage of. I really don't want to glorify something that could put people at risk. Angela and Nanette's relationship, while it's not healthy in the slightest, it's also the main relationship in the entire show. So that alone is really interesting. While it's not written with a ton of emotional depth, it is a comedy. And especially with today's understanding of psychology and what we know more about mental health and people's motivations, it is interesting to try and figure out why. They're written vague enough that you can project a lot onto it. One possibility was that there was a secret crush. Again, just for moral reasons, I didn't really want to go there, but there is a queer undercurrent to Angela and Nanette's relationship that I did want to point out. The first time I noticed it was in the episode Secret Santa, where Miss Brinks sets it up and talks about it as if it was something romantic.
All right, class. I believe you all know the rules for Secret Santa. Each person picks a name at random, then you buy that special person a gift worth less than $5.
Later on, Angela goes shopping with Gordy Reinhardt, who clearly has romantic intentions for his recipient, whereas she could have gone shopping with Gina or Johnny, and something funny happens anyway. And Nanette's the one who decides she's going to give Angela something really, really nice. Comes out of the blue, you don't expect it. And she's given her crap up until that point, so there is something softer underneath all the crap she gives her.
So did you hear the news? Angela Anaconda has picked moi as her Secret Santa. Can you believe we actually picked each other? How drag. So I had no choice but to buy her something really, really nice. This imported French cashmere scarf in orange, which is French for orange. I mean, honestly, I can't have Angela Anaconda outshop me. I have the man more name to think about. Can you believe the nerve of her? Buying me something really, really nice like that? Now I have no choice but to retaliate and get her something really, really nice too.
Angela mentions this earlier, and Nanette's nowhere in the scene to be found. How did she know that she wanted this?
The only thing I need now is a matching scarf that matches.
Then later backtracks immediately before really even seeing what Angela's gift was. So one plausible explanation of that episode is, oh, this is somebody who wanted to do something nice for a crush but chickened out at the last minute. And she doesn't even give Angela the scarf in the first place, so she says she backed out. Why is that? So Also, their dogs fell in love in puppy love. There's that. Do with that what you will. And gonna get more personal in ways that I don't really like to do on the internet generally, but I am bisexual. And this show comes very, very close to reflecting some of my own experiences in ways that nothing else really does. I don't relate to an overwhelming majority of queer media. Even something like Steven Universe. Sure, moments here and there. But that's not the kind of queer I am. I don't relate to Sailor Moon or Star vs. the Force of Evil. I actually have problems with Star vs. the Force of Evil because I do not like how the character Starfan 13 is portrayed as this subservient character to Star Butterfly. She is portrayed, at least in the episodes I've seen, I don't know if she gets better, as a bit of a stalker, and I have problems with that. I don't really relate to Marceline and Bubblegum. Kinda yes, kinda no. For some reason, there's just this barrier that prevents myself from seeing myself in it. Kurosami, which I do appreciate that they went there, but they didn't go in building that relationship, so I can't really get into that either. This one really does get me in this way.
I don't feel too comfortable elaborating on that, but let's just say I've had a couple of relationships, platonic and romantic, that were very, very similar to this.
So I do really appreciate it for that. I don't know how much of this was intentional, but I certainly do see this very queer presence in it. And that's where I'm going to stop. This review is already long enough. But in conclusion, Angela and Nanette's relationship, while unhealthy, is very clearly the focus of the show and can be explored a lot more should the show get a reboot, me running it. And looking at it, it appears to be the most passionate relationship that Angela's got, for better or for worse, and the most honest relationship Nanette's got. January Carlene, Miss Brinks, and even her parents are fawning over her and don't really challenge her. Even Johnny Abadi likes the attention. Gina can be won over very easily, but Angela's the one person who challenges her. And I think on some level, there is an honesty to it that Nanette doesn't get anywhere else. I think this relationship's an interesting one, and while it is vague, it can be interpreted in quite a variety of ways depending on what you see in it. So, those are my thoughts for the night. Catch you next week.